Welcome to the Strong, Single and Human podcast. A real look at single parenting, how to navigate the ups and downs of life with kids on your own while keeping sane. We cover all manner of subjects from domestic violence, dealing with childhood trauma, through to fussy eaters and how to help your kids become resilient. I'm your host, Claire Martin. Welcome. This week's guest, Keli Kane, is a kindergarten reading specialist with a Bachelor of Science degree and a Master of Science in Education. Keli suffered a brain trauma after being hit by a drunk driver in 2014 when her son was not yet a tween. Her story is a testament to the power of resilience and the impact that one person can have on the lives of those around them. Her confidence and self-discipline have helped her overcome many obstacles in life, making her a true inspiration. Through her own experience and training in Shamanism and Usui Reiki, Keli shares practical tools and techniques for anyone looking to heal themselves and move beyond their own obstacles. Her authentic and positive energy shines through as she encourages listeners to tap into their inner strengths and exercise self-discipline to create a life of abundance and joy. This is the Strong, Single and Human podcast. Hi, Keli. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on board.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Well, I can't wait for you to tell my listeners your story, basically, because I've spoken to you before and it's just an amazing, unbelievable story. Unbelievable story, an unfortunate story, because you don't wish this to happen to anyone, even your worst enemy. But look, tell us a bit about, so we all know, so I said in the intro that you had an accident and stuff, right? But tell us a bit about your life before the accident, before everything happened.
So my life before the accident was obviously regulated. I was a elementary reading specialist and married and had a house, and my son was 7 years old and things were just moving along. I had a tumultuous upbringing, but I won't dive into that. I've done that in other podcasts. So I had already overcome some traumas growing up, but I was balanced when this accident occurred. At least in my mind, I felt balanced. I don't know what anyone else. Don't know about anyone else's perceptions. I know that I was rigid and set in everyday routine. Routine was very important to me, and just having control. I know that as a younger female, because I was only 37 when it happened. So I had to do so much to put all of that in place that I was, everything had to be, I had to be in control. I was the lead. I was the boss. I helped run the house. I was a mom. I ran, my classroom, and I'm a reading specialist, and I was always on top of things. And it was always the way I'm talking, it's how it was. Fast paced, fast paced, fast paced. So the day that this accident was about to occur, I was actually still in fast-paced mode. I'm not the one that was supposed to take my son to Little League Baseball. That was hubby's job. I was doing so many other things, and he loved to be baseball dad, and I let him have that. And he happened to have to work this day, June 7th, 2014. Wow. Yeah, like a weird trading of places. And I was still running around before I picked up my son. I was at the store trying to get gift cards for the teachers who were retiring that I had collected for 2 weeks, just still on the go, because there was going to be a teacher retirement dinner that night. And I was on the go. I was in the car, I was zooming in, out. Parents know how this goes. And
yeah, exactly. You were doing normal mum stuff, weren't you? Juggling multiple things, running around, making sure everyone else is all good. Hubby's good. You took over his job, because he had to work, and make sure the kids are all fine and everything like that. That's basically what we're doing.
Yeah.
what mums do.
And never for a split second did I think it was going to go wrong. So and I'm going to paint myself in that light. I came in all stressed. Hey, Dad, get your stuff together. Put on your shoes for baseball. Get your cleats on. Get this. I'm holding his bag and I'm making sure he has water. And I was a frantic, on the go lady. I'm not going to lie. And we get the car and he's 7 and I strap him in his little booster seat. And we start driving. And, I only live 2 minutes from his baseball field. So I get him over there and I let him out of the car and he says, tink, 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 tink. And I'm like, he's got his Nikes on, not his cleats. Don't you know?
Oh my God.
That was a defining moment. I know you as a mom probably feel that, where you look down and you're like, do I let this go? And I thought about it for a split second and my angels were actually like, let it go, let it go, let it go. He's 7, let it go. And I was like, no. Had to be the perfect mom. No. Okay, I got it. You go in the field. I see your grandpa. I waved to grandpa. I said, you watch him. And I left. He's 7. No one on the planet would have cared if he was in his Nikes. I got in the car. I zoomed home. I got his cleats. I made it in a minute and a half. Ta-da! Because I don't live that far. But when I got back in the car, I came around this bend. And even at the church, it was a church. There's 2 churches. One church said it had a lawnmower for sale, and it said, lawnmower. I didn't even need a lawnmower. It was a ride-on lawnmower, and they were selling tickets. And my ex-husband, who was the husband at the time, wanted a ride-on. So Spirit was like, pull over, and I ignored it. And then I took the turn, and there was a church right there. And then you can't see. This is such a turn, it's a 90-degree turn, and there's greenery. So I took it like I had taken it a million times, and there's a cliff on the right-hand side. I took it like I would never take it, but when I came out, I never saw it coming. He drove straight in at 30 miles an hour. I was going 5 miles an hour at a basic still stop, and he just, and right to the wall. And then, obviously there was unconsciousness. I was kind of upside down, every airbag deployed. I didn't know what happened, but he hit me a second time. So when that second time hit, that was when I started getting wait, where am I? And no, I couldn't hear anything. All I saw was white. It was just, I was deaf with white. But I felt the impact. So it scared me and I crawled out. So needless to say, that was, that's in the book that I wrote, the step-by-step of everything that I went through. It was incredibly lucky and just traumatic. It was 10:42 on a Saturday morning, and this person was not just intoxicated, but 3 or 4 times over the legal limit at 10:42 in the morning. So, everyone has their past and things happen with people, and I didn't care to read into why, he made that choice, but it's just not part of the journey that I chose to dive into. Mine was all about rehabilitation. God, how do I get better? How do I move through here? But yeah, I went through an angry phase. I can't lie.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say there would have been a lot of emotions after the accident. So you crawled out. So you were you could move your arms and legs and stuff, and you could crawl out?
No, actually, my car has what's called OnStar, and it's an electronic. The electronic device.
Yes, I remember you saying.
Yeah. So when the impact happened, and I was this side under, I just want to show you, hanging upside down by the belt under.
Belt, yeah.
So they still don't know where I hit my head because it was here, but we don't know how or why. We could only assume I hit my head down and then kind of went forward. And they're the ones who were calling out, and I obviously didn't respond until, whatever. And then the only thing I got was deployed. That's what I got. So
what we should actually explain is what Sorry, I've got a frog in the throat. What Kelly's saying is that in her car, she actually has like what would you call it? A security mechanism or whatever, that if her car is in an accident, then it sends an alert. Yeah?
Yeah, it's like a GPS, like you could call, you just hit the button and it gives you GPS tracking. You could go, it'll give you directions and then it brings it up on the board for you to follow, or emergency services. There isn't even SOS button. To be kind to strangers, you hit the SOS button and call for others for help while you're driving.
Oh my God, but like, is this fitted in American cars, or do you get this fitted in your cars over there?
I'm sure a lot of cars have this capability, but I chose GMC for that reason, that they carried OnStar. Chevy might do it. Right. I chose that on purpose before I even got this, because I was not a good direction taker.
Okay. Well, look, it was awesome because they basically said, "Are you okay?" They spoke to you, didn't they? They said, "Are you okay? We'll send somebody to you straight away," right? Which was just amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they got somebody to you. They got you out of the car. They got you to hospital.
Yeah.
And then, so what were your injuries?
That was crazy. I went to the hospital. I couldn't even lay on the stretcher. My back, my arm felt like it was going to melt off, because when airbags deploy, they have a chemical on them that burns. And when you look at your skin, it looks like it's going to melt right off. So I kept holding my arm in the air, thinking it was going to melt off, because it felt like it was melting off to me. That was strange. And then my left side, obviously, because all the impact came from the left side. So I kept holding my left side and holding my arm, and they're like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, cause if you looked at me, you wouldn't think anything was wrong. But I was trying to suck it up buttercup, and I couldn't even lay back on, so what had happened is it displaced my hip, it got my side, it melted my arm. When I pulled myself out to get away, it ripped apart in the back of my neck and shoulder. And these in the insurance world were minor things. And it dislocated this finger. I don't hold the steering wheel the same. I had it 10 and 2, right? We're taught, hold the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Well, when the airbag deploys, if you're holding, it knocks your fingers out. So now I hold 8 and 4. Because I'd rather have my wrist turned back to me. So this stupid thing was, it got me from here out, and it bent it. And it was so painful, I couldn't sleep. It took 2 hand therapists and a year of therapy to be able to just look. I can't fold it all the way. But
who would have thought a dislocated finger would be so bad?
It kept me up all night, because it was where it was torn is like right in between there, and the nerve pain. It's ridiculous how painful things could be. And mind you, I had a brain injury where I had a rash down my face because this would swell and my eye would pour water down my face the whole time. Never stopped. The only thing that stopped it was craniosacral therapy, like massage therapy.
Oh, I was going to say, because that sounded really crazy. So, so basically you had injuries.
And there were
allegedly, yeah. But so they patched you up and then sent you home?
They brought me in. They did x-rays, and the way of their world works is your brain bleeding? Let me do it right. Is your brain bleeding? No. Can they find a fracture anywhere? No. And then they gave me an ibuprofen, and I told them I couldn't see straight. My eye was already pouring, and they sent me home and said, follow up with a doctor. And then 2 days later, I went in for MRIs of my brain, MRIs of my finger, MRIs of my neck, MRIs of my body. And at that point, I had already gotten PTSD from like the accident and everything. So that confined space and that loud sound. Oh, have you ever had an MRI?
I have. I've had MRI where I've had to go in up to my waist, and it's the most horrific. I didn't think I had a concern with confined spaces, but yeah, I didn't. I just wanted to get out of there, really get out of there.
Yeah,
the noise wasn't too bad, but it was it's such a small, well, it probably isn't a small space, but
No,
it felt like a small space, right? And when I went in, I was like, okay, I'm now starting to panic. And I had to close my eyes and I had to imagine myself on a beach. That's how I got through it.
Yes. I had
to stop breathing as well, right? They said, right, can you hold your breath? Oh my God. And you don't know how long you've got to hold your breath for, right? So can you hold your breath? And I'd hold my breath, and I know it's all for a reason, right? But I was going, there were times where I'd sit there and go, when can I breathe? Can I breathe now? Because I was like, obviously not took a big enough breath, but.
Yeah. I went in with a brain injury, PTSD, and laying on my back was full throttle pain. So I was like sob crying in there so much they would tell me, like, you've got to stop or you have to do this again. So I'd grit my teeth and I would punch my fists and I would just literally leave myself as rigid as I could. They had earplugs in for me. They had headphones over me because they knew I was a brain injury person. And even with that, I was still like muffling, and they're like, thank God you got through. And I had to do quite a few of those because they were really trying to find, like, they knew I was presenting as someone that there's something wrong and we can't see it. We cannot see it on her, and she's a rational woman, and like, let's get to this. And they really truly never found a crack. So after 3 months, when I started slurring and dropping things, and I couldn't handwrite anymore. I couldn't handwrite. I couldn't speak. I couldn't remember what I was saying in 60-second patterns. And I said, something's wrong, because I'm a reading specialist. I work with special needs. And even my ex at the time was like, something's wrong. And I'm like, I have a brain injury. This is going to get worse. And it did. But I went in and I made them evaluate me. And I was deemed mentally disabled for 1.5 years while doing neurofeedback.
So what was your brain injury then? Can you go into that detail? What happened?
Well, and I have tried to have this conversation with friends and people that I know that get head injuries. I mean, a head injury is a head injury. I think it was 1.5 years ago, I was in the front gardening and I popped up fast underneath the metal part of my house. And I actually re-injured myself. And I recognized the pattern immediately and went back for help. But people don't realize what the pattern is. So, I actually gave myself a second one, a reoccurrence 1.5 years ago. But back then, I knew immediately right away. I mean, I was a quick-witted woman, multitasking reading specialist, and then I couldn't speak a word. So you would see the letter in your brain, but you can't bring the word out of your mouth. This is what I trained my students to do when it started happening. And then I picked up a pen one day and was going like this, and I didn't know how to hold the pen. And I just froze. They told me, I went to a neurosurgeon and they checked to see if your brain was bleeding. And he says, not bleeding. My advice, go back to everything you were doing as much as possible. You'll get it back. Kind of like an amnesia type response.
Yeah. But that wasn't what was wrong with you.
Not for a brain injury. You can't do that. You have no balance.
But it wasn't bruising or anything like that, was it? You'd actually...
Swelling inside, which made my water pour. Like, I looked like I was constantly crying down my... And then I had swelling. So I wasn't recognizing it this way. I knew my eye won't stop watering and I can't see clear. I knew that. And then once all those other signs came with the speech and I couldn't remember, it really got to the point where I didn't know what I was saying on a 15, 20-minute basis. I'd say I had fights with my ex. I didn't say that. He'd be like, yes, you did. I didn't. My 7-year-old would be like, Mommy, you just said, I didn't do that. So I tried to go back to karate. I couldn't jump and count. I was holding a glass and it would just slip out and drop and break. There was no rational control. It was the scariest thing in my life. I didn't even want to walk down the stairs anymore. I would hold on with both hands, and I didn't even trust my hands. So there were times where I'd say, I'm too scared to come down the stairs. So it really messed my world up.
Completely changed your life then.
It was hard to fight back from that, but I was like this is not the end for me. I'm not giving up.
So did the hospital then recognize the brain injury after all of this going crazy?
So the MRI comparison that I had from 6 months prior when I was complaining about something completely different, and the one they have did show little white nicks in there. And I kept the MRIs on purpose. Like if I ever write a book, I'm going to keep the MRIs, and this is my proof because I want people to know I'm telling the truth. And I did oh, by the way, when I had the neurofeedback from insurance, that's not cheap. They don't play games. Like if you don't qualify, you will not get it. So I got it for a year and a half, 42 sessions, and I wasn't checked just by them. I was checked by that neuropsychologist. I was checked by the opposing neuropsychologist for insurance to deem whether your treatments were to keep going. And then I was checked by a third neuropsychologist because I was in a court case, and that one wanted to make sure that I wasn't faking. So I was checked by 3 neuropsychologists, 6 exams. They are lengthy, tiring exams. And so, I'm that's why I'm okay telling my story. Like I was checked by 3 professionals 6 times. This happened. And I turned everything over to my school psychologist where I work, and she was like, wow, I can't believe this is happening to you, and I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. Matter of fact, I didn't even tell her I wrote a book, and she just found out, and she was like, Kelly, you wrote a book? Oh my God. And she was like, just so emotionally happy of where I got after that. She was looking at the reports, and she was like, this is legit. You really are mentally disabled right now. Yeah.
Wow, which is just insane. Like being mentally disabled, it's just, I mean, I'm talking to you now, right?
You wouldn't know.
You see, yeah, you just wouldn't know. So, okay, so then how did you come back from this? Because this must have affected your personal life, your work life, like friends and family. Like, how did it affect people?
It was not an easy road traveled, and this is why I come on to try to help others, because this road is rough and it's lonely and it's hard. So yeah, my marriage ended up not working, and that was like the catalyst where it fell apart. The friends that I had are not the friends that I have. My job was my steady thing because I've worked there for 20 years, and I love being a teacher. It's engaging. There's 1,000 people in my building, and every 45 minutes is different. Every week is different. Every month is different. Every year is different. And I actually think that consistent change, keeping you on your feet, you're practicing, is what kept me mentally engaged and constant. It's like a mental jog, right? So I was exercising, I was trying, but this was the mental part of exercising. I was going to neurofeedback, and I was going to my job, and I was doing my best for all the students. But yeah.
So were you still able to do your job then? Because obviously I'm thinking getting into it's like 6 months, 6 months, like you weren't able to talk, constantly crying, all of those sort of things. So I'm sort of thinking that must have affected your work during that period of time.
It did. I was hit June 7th, 2014. And clearly they were like, you're out for the school year. You're out. My district was supportive. You're gone. You got sick. You have sick days, take them.
Okay.
So I thought in my mind, being the overachiever that I was, is that I was going to take a summer break. I'll rehab and I'll come back. And I couldn't come back in September. I tried to go back in October. I went in, I had a neck brace on. I was taped all the way down my back, and you could see. And I was walking like this and stiff. I couldn't pick up folders because I couldn't move this hand. And
oh God, of course.
So
bloody finger.
Yeah, I got a call down to the office, and my principal was very kindly like, yeah, so we're going to send you home. Oh, I cried. I thought it was over. And they said, no, we're sending you home because you have sick days. We're running them. You're not ready. You're not ready. And I cried because I took that as,
Yeah,
as
see you later.
defeat. And I didn't want to lose my position working with the little ones. They said, we promise you working with little ones. Don't worry about that. And I ended up being out a year and a half, and they compensated.
Wow.
And that is a big wow.
Wow.
My psychologist says to me all the time, you must be a miracle baby because no one gets that kind of support.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, well, hats off to you. So okay. So how did you pull yourself back? Because like you said, right, you're out for 18 months, right? You had all these issues. How did you get yourself back? How did you keep yourself positive during that time?
So the first thing that I had to do, and I'm trained to track, the first thing I had to do was track my appointments, and I had 14 specialists. 14. I mean, we're hand therapists, PT therapists, homeopaths, neuropsychologists, psychologists, neurologists. Like it went down. And I would write down the date and the time. And literally, I think I had 3 or 4 or sometimes only 2. I said sometimes only 2 appointments a day. I made it my life to spend every day rehabbing because I just wasn't going to give up. I was only 37. This was not the end for me. I was not having it. And into that, I went back to my Reformed Church of Socrates and spoke with my pastor because I needed a little bit of God back into my life, why wouldn't anybody try? Why did this happen to me? Why was it me? And then I was teaching with Shaman, and she said, I think you would benefit from Reiki healing. And what's that? Energy healing? Okay. And I always had a gift. So I indulged in that and met my shaman friend who was clearing my energy. And I met a Reiki master, became a Reiki master, and then started studying shamanism. And it's just like all together with the doctors and specialists and becoming a Reiki master and shamanism studying, it just started to unfold in my angel studies. I was actually studying angels big time. So I had like this spiritual buff while I was awakening, a transformation. I was a transformation because I was always gifted. I just wasn't doing anything with it. So I know that all came together.
So when you say you were always gifted, right? What does that mean, and how does that look? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I knew, my mom is...
This is where I get scared.
No, don't get scared at all. And it's funny, I'm not as strong as people think I am. You hear the words and you get terrified. Don't be terrified. And that's what makes me such a good reading specialist. I guess I would be clairsentient. I have my angels. I know I have angels around me all the time. And that my parents passed 36 hours apart during the pandemic time. I know they're so present, and they send messages all the time. It's not scary. I don't feel like, there's no, oh my God, that's Freddy Krueger in the corner type thing. No, none of that action. It's very kind, angelic. I see the messages they come across. I don't know. I've come across so many medium friends, and I have a lot of powerful medium friends who are all published, and they were like, you realize you're one of us? I'm like, nah, you poo-poo it all. And then now that I'm not afraid of it anymore and putting out there, because remember, I'm 46 years old. I have many childhood experiences. Look, he's back. Many childhood experiences, with this kind of stuff. And ironically, it comes back when I was talking about childhood experiences and spirit.
Oh, yeah. It's like
baby.
if people are just listening to this, Kelly's just, her cat keeps coming into the screen and keeps coming back. And, well, you've got an interesting story about how you found your cat, haven't you? It's like in a way, he's like a little guardian angel for you.
Yes, and it's funny because I didn't even share this with you, but I was praying the whole way down to that summer trip that we were taking before finding him for a perfect cat for my son, who is 7. And that's not what
Wow.
happened. This little beach kitty from a house that we rented that was $10,000 was being chased by a fox and ran into our home that we rented, and everybody in there was upset about it. They were not pleased that I was keeping this cat in, but we were from a family rescue operation, so I locked it up in
Yeah.
the room, and he came home, and he ended up being my spiritual baby. My kid was like, "That's my cat. That's yours," and I'm like, "I know," because I had the accident right after that, and he
Yeah.
was the only pressure that I could take on my chest. My son, who was 7, could not hold me. He could not hug me. He could not touch me. A brain injury sends, information all the way out. I was on Percocet, Xanax, Flexeril muscle
Oh
relaxers,
my God.
anything to keep inflammation down. So naproxen, heavy hitting stuff. It was so just getting off of all of the drugs was its own journey in itself.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they seem some pretty heavy hitting drugs as well, right? So, coming free of all of that. And so, do you think you would have gone on the journey, studied the shamanism, done the Reiki master stuff if you'd have had the accident?
That's a great question. And so far, out of like 6 or 7 podcasts so far, no one's really asked that question. I don't.
Well, like to be out there.
That's right. Way to be the first girl. I don't. I always wanted to. I don't think that I had the bravery or avenue to step forward to get into it. I mean, I always had the gift, and it followed me from house to house to house to house. I would call my sister with incessant stories, and my sister always told me, "It's not where you're going. It's you. It's you. It's you." And I would get so mad and upset, like there's nothing wrong with me. I just had an energy that things were drawn to and trying to communicate, and then I took it as a horror show. Now that I can channel it, tell it to go away, filter it, and control it, and have an avenue for that, it's completely fine. My sister's like, "I can't believe where you've gotten. Like, I'm so proud of you. You're in it. Like, when things happen, you can channel it and be like, you're good, moving on. No more crazy phone calls out of terror."
So you were sort of blocking it a little bit then, were
I was
you? And like the accident, like just changed the path of your life as such. And so I'm trying to go back to your like 18 months recovery, right? Because what were some of the lows in that and what were some of the highs, right? Or was it just all lows? It can't be all lows.
It wasn't all those. And the last podcast that I had asked me this question. And that's when I wrote my book, I really got into it. That was why it took me 9 years to write the book, because I publicly put such vulnerability in there. I showcased the lows. And the lows included, incessant crying. The lows included, when I was holding my mom's hand for home hospice on her 11th day, I did not expect the phone call where Dad was going to slip, fall, hit his head, and die. And that night, I had a 1-hour drive home at 10 p.m. And I walked through the house. I walked in, grabbed a bottle of wine, walked through the house to the hot tub, sat in it, and just drank the bottle, stopped crying, and had my son come stand above me, looking at me like, "Oh my God." I mean, imagine that. Like that, he saw that and staring at me, and he was like, "Mom, what's wrong?"
Yeah.
Right. Well, and so he thought Grandma died. He didn't know Grandpa did. And when I said my dad died, he said, "You mean your mom?" And I said, "My dad." And his face just went to terror. Like in his head, he's like, she just lost everything, and now she lost Dad before, and he knows it, and he's staring at me like, "I know," like this, scared. "I know your mom's dying right now." And I think a little bit of how would I feel like if you both disappeared? you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
that
that's
was
right.
like,
That's right.
that was one of the lows, having him stare at me in that fear of, what if I have what you have?
So out of all of this, right, you then decided to write a book.
Yeah, my sister trapped me in a car in November. No joke. No joke.
Oh.
She
I
put
was
me
going to say, why did you write the book? But it's your sister's fault.
I always said I was going to do it. I told my mom I was going to do it. And, my mom knew it was never the right time. I wasn't done. It wasn't just the accident. It wasn't just them dying. It wasn't just the PTSD. There's things that I haven't even written about or talked on any podcast. Is brand new with you. When my parents died, the order of the house who it belonged to was in question, and I had to go to court with the state for a year with a lawyer on my own. After all of this, I've never spoken about this anywhere because, she was in a nursing home, but the house belonged to my dad, and who died first and who owned it first.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've never spoken about this anywhere, not even to anyone that I've dated. Never.
And you just wouldn't think that you would have to be dealing with that when you've lost both your parents, right?
That happened.
Wow.
It only come to a win because they died at the same time and processing. And so,
oh my God,
when I think about how okay, all of this is terrible, and there's times where I'm like, I wish that never happened. And I realize, I don't know. People ask me all the time, would you be happier if it didn't happen, or are you okay now? I'm okay now, but that's called survival. So I can't gauge. I don't know what would have been on the other side anymore. I now know where I am, but that's the first time I've ever shared that. I've never even shared that with my agent. TV expert doesn't even know that part. I never shared that. So people don't know the whole story. They know what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And so, okay, so then your sister cornered you in a car.
Oh, yes.
And said what? Yes. No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm interested because it interests me. I interview quite a few people who go through life-changing experiences, and I'm just interested around where you go from life-changing experience to putting it into a book, right? Because that's a personal life-changing experience to you and all of your feelings and thoughts, and then you go and put it into a book. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah. So she cornered me into a car, and she took me for a long drive. And she said, that's enough out of you, enough out of you with procrastination. You're going to finish this and you're going to write the book. And I did in 2.5 months, because it was something that I was already, I was contemplating it for 9 years, and it just, she was right. It was time. I had gotten the divorce. I sold the home. I moved out. I was in an apartment, and she said, okay, this is your starting over point, and that's enough. I've had enough of your procrastination. I feel like she was channeling mom, and she said, get to it. And I got to it.
So the book was a little bit like drawing a line under everything that happened.
Yes.
And a start over.
It was the start over, and it was very therapeutic, when I had to go back and get records from the accident to print it in the book, right? I wanted to be legit. Wow. So when I asked for the FOIL request, that was the first time that I read with my own eyes the actual report. And this man who hit me, I never expected any communication or such, just an apology. Like, I didn't need anything other than I'm sorry, or an explanation, just I'm sorry. An apology of some sort and move on. I didn't need a life story. It was just, I don't know, this is what you expect out of human nature. And I didn't get that. But in the report that I found, when I wrote the book, inside the report, he was saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And I didn't read that until it was time to write the report. That was never shared with me from either lawyer. And it's just so funny that the report was written specifically the way that I had told that story 9 million times, but they questioned me over and over and over, like I wasn't telling the story right.
Yeah.
And when I read
that's lawyers for you, right? At the end of the day, that's them doing their job, right? Just questioning away. But I know. And when
I read that, I was like, you all knew I was telling the truth. You all knew I was saying it the same way every single time. And so just reading the report myself when I was ready to write the book, maybe that's what my sister's job was. Maybe that's what Mom was trying to tell her, what to do there.
To get it sorted.
Yeah, to get it sorted and to get it started so that I would find that information.
So the book quintessentially is about your journey through the accident and then your journey through to healing?
Yes.
Is that basically what it covers?
So the first part of the book is I talk about the accident, and then I talk about the PTSD involved in it, because the PTSD is deep. It's very deep.
Well, I was going to say, let's talk about that, because we haven't covered off PTSD, right?
Yeah.
And look, and people are getting PTSD through domestic violence situations, various different situations that, as a single parent you would be involved in, right? And accidents as well. And, you can be a single parent and have an accident, which would be horrendous. But like any accident is horrendous. But like, what was your PTSD then? Talk to me about the PTSD, because we hear that phrase all the time. But what does it actually entail? What is it?
So the PTSD portion included, obviously the fear of being, it's funny because I was in an SUV when the auto accident happened, but because it saved my life and kept me hurt to a less degree on all avenues, I did not want to be in a sedan. I still have PTSD in riding in a sedan.
Okay.
So the funny thing is, I was driving right after the accident, not realizing what a brain injury was, because I'm trained. Face your fear head on, face your fear head on. So I got in, this sedan rental that they gave me, and I would try to drive. And now I realize, hindsight, that was not good for everybody else on the road.
Wow.
But I didn't know.
No.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I got in the road to try and, overcome this fear. And I was tweaked out by a million things. And I just thought it was fear. I didn't know what PTSD was at the time. I didn't know what brain, right? I'm just.
Well, so many people don't, right? You just basically, like, I suppose, like from the era that you and I came from, right? It's like, deal with it, right? It's just get on and deal with it. Face your fear, deal with it. You'll be okay. Just get on with it, right? And actually getting on with it sometimes isn't the best thing. So what happened with the PTSD then?
Well,
you just was triggered, like loud noises. What about loud noises?
Badly. I remember riding in the car that was rented for me with my ex-husband, and this large truck was coming up behind, and he was stopping. But the natural sound of the brakes goes, brrr, and that sound triggered me, and I had a ponytail, and thank God. I literally opened the car door because we were going slow enough. I opened up the car door. I wanted out. So I opened it up, and my ex had grabbed my hair and pulled me back and was screaming, "What are you doing?" Screaming at me. So he did not understand what was happening with me at all.
Yeah.
And he was looking at me like, "You're now psychotic. I don't know what to do with you," because he just didn't understand. And my neuropsychologist met with him. My psychologist had conversation, and it's just, he just couldn't grasp what was happening.
Understand what was going on.
And it was just, and kind of like, oh, is this what I'm left with? That. And I was feeling the same.
Wow.
So, I mean, it does take its toll on a relationship if it's not really, really strong in the first place. And it ended up ripping.
Well, and the thing is, right, at the end of the day, it's a brain injury, right? So it's a hell of a thing for you to deal with. And then, so how did it affect your son at all? Or did he just get...
Yes. My son is the
Oh.
most amazing thing on the planet. He was 7 and I couldn't take him anywhere. I couldn't have friends over. I couldn't bring him to have sleepovers. He's very isolated. I did everything that I could to socialize him, but I could see it in the 9, 10, 11-year age range where he was just not having friends and sleeping over and all that and not fitting in the way he used to. And I actually ended up changing his school for him in the 5th grade because things just, they weren't working and I needed him to have a fresh start. And after old therapy that I had, I knew, you know what, he was not happy, but I said, shush, I know what's good for you. I'm doing it. Like, I've already done this. I led the path. Now you do it. And I put him in a new school and it changed his whole world. Because at that time, now it was, years out where, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 years out, I was able to walk, talk, and do all sorts of things. So now he's perfectly fine. He's a straight A student. He's going to drive next year. It's 5.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He's just such a good boy, and his teachers love him. He plays baseball. He's very good at it. His friends.
Oh, he's still playing baseball then?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Him and my son would get on so well because my son loves baseball. He's crazy for baseball. So
not one team. It's 4. So it's like the high school.
Oh my God.
Team. But he was on junior varsity and varsity, rotating. And then, the last year Babe Ruth, the little guy leagues that they're playing, and then a travel team. So he is just completely invested in the baseball. So this accident did not disturb that at all. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. Crikey. So look, where can people find this book? Where can people find you?
So I had Amazon Publishing Pros create. They created KeliKaneHealing.com. My agent's TVGuestBert.com. You can find me on there. They're very happy with this website. So am I.
Yeah.
It's done very, very well. They put it together very well. Everything that I've done. They put my photos up from I Spy Studios and I'm on Amazon. I'm on Barnes & Noble. Actually, I just finished my first book signing on Barnes & Noble. Yay! May 27th, I did it, and they asked me to come back. Woo! Yeah, I know. Little people think.
And what's the title of your book? What is your book called again?
Angel in the Mirror, Healing Traumatic Brain Injury through Western Medicine and Spirituality, because that whole spiritual piece that took off. I mean, I ended up becoming friends with these powerful psychic mediums everywhere, and they're like little besties. I text them back and forth all the time, and this is a beautiful network. Woo.
Yes. No. Okay. So people, it's on all your bookstores, as it were, online ones, and you have your own website, which is KeliKane.com. Keli Kane Healing. Keli Kane Healing. Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Cool. .com.
Yes.
.com. .com. .global. No, so that's cool. So I don't know. I've got a final question for you.
Yeah.
And it can't be your own book because we've just plugged that, right? But through all of this, is there a book that you can suggest to my listeners that got you through this?
I do.
Yeah, go for it. And why would you recommend it?
Well, I have at least 5 of them, but I'll try to narrow it down. The first one was My Psychologist, The Pain Survival Guide, How to Reclaim Your Life by Dennis C. Turk. And that was how to manage, everyday pain and just PTSD and things that are going on. But when I was in my neuropsychologist's office, because I was doing those exams, I would get so afraid, and I was so afraid of what I was going to turn out to be and who I was going to be matched with. And so Shel Silverstein, The Missing Piece Meets the Big O, it is the cutest children's story about how you find yourself. I know, it's so cute. I tell you, it's so cute. I've posted it a million times. So, and I've read Alan Watts' The Wisdom of Insecurity, and that talks about living in the here and now and appreciating the present. So it's very deep if you like that kind of read. And Alberto Villoldo's Shaman, the Healer, Sage. Of course, that's one of the things that I've been studying.
Yeah.
And the Reiki book that I was using as I was becoming a Reiki master is Usui, Usui, Mikao, Mikao, if I did that right. That's from memory.
Oh my God.
So there you go.
Okay.
I was ready for that question. Those are the things I would.
All of those.
Yeah.
So there we go. We got like a bumper pack of books this time. Well done. Well done. That's awesome. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Look, Keli, thank you for coming on here and telling me about your story, right? Because it's a scary story, but it's got hope because you got through it.
Everybody can.
You got through it.
Yeah, healing is not pretty. It doesn't need to be, this giant, wave of actions or emotions. It can be ugly, in and out, and you got to be okay with that and just move forward. So that's what I'm trying to show. It's not always pretty. There's a lot of crying, face on the cold linoleum or ceramic tile floor, whatever. It just is what it is. It's in and out. And you just keep going.
It's baby steps, but as long as they're baby steps forward, you're good.
That's right.
Wow. Well, look, thank you again for coming on here. It's been a pleasure.
I adore you. Thank you so much for having me and helping to hear my story and pass it out there.
Wow. Write more books and we'll get you back on.
It's funny. You're not the first person.
Do some other stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. I'll take it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you would like to hear more, please hit subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. If you would like to support us further, share this episode with your friends and family. And finally, drop us a review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and ideas. It all helps me to understand and produce awesome content you want to hear just like this. If you want to check out our past episodes, write to us, appear on the podcast, or for links, resources, and show notes, go to our website, www.strongsingleandhuman.com. We are also on all the usual social media platforms, Insta, Facey, and Twitter. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Be kind to yourself, and remember, no one is perfect. We're all just putting one foot in front of the other and doing our best. I'm Claire Martin, and you've been listening to the Strong, Single, and Human podcast.